We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. This is Cheryl from Dja country. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to episode 88, I think, of the Beyond 90 pod. My name is Cheryl Downs. You may have forgotten my name. I haven't been here for about a month or so. It's been busy days at work. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm very excited to be back on the pod today with this awesome group of people to talk football. Starting from my top anyway, Madge, great to see you. How's your week been kicking along?
Yeah, it's been great. No complaints here in Brisbane today. So just my team's not in the final, so I've just been enjoying being a neutral, watching the semi-finals and prelim finals.
Very good. And what about yourself, Dale? Has it been going okay?
Yeah, well, thoroughly enjoyed yesterday's game. We'll come on to that a bit later. But other than that, not much to report here. Sun is shining, the birds are singing. Everything seems to be a little bit brighter.
Very good. Stefan, you were next on my list. Tell us quickly about how your week, if we call Monday a week, is it going okay so far? At least Wordle? Do you do Wordle? Is that going well?
I don't do Wordle. Yeah, going well. Very excited about the start of all the Nordic football that's happening this week. So I'll be keen to talk about it a little bit later.
Very good. And finally, the guy who's been managing everything while I haven't been here, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure he has loved the control, but I'm happy to be back. But I'm very thankful for Eric for managing everything while I've been away.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. And it's good to know that you finally remembered that this pod exists the day after Melbourne Victory made the grand final. Well done to you.
What are you suggesting?
I just like convenient timing. That's all.
Well, there's no such thing as convenient timing in that. I'm a Melbourne girl, so I was happy with Melbourne City or Melbourne Victory getting through the prelim final. But I think for me, it's interesting to see who will be able to match up against Sydney, and that's the conversation that we'll have pretty shortly. But as per our normal standard of how we run the show, we kick off with a quick little introduction or a quick little bit of history about Matildas that we've had in the past. We'll eventually catch up to present Matildas, but we're up to Cap 88, which is Denise Lofthouse. She debuted for the Matildas in 1995. Her grassroots football club was Rockingham. Not too many from that side of Australia. I think she's only had the 1A international match, and it actually happened when I think Tracy Wheeler had an injury, and that meant that Lofty was able to step in. And what I wouldn't have cared if it was, me and I got to step in for one match. That still makes you a Matilda. So congratulations to you. I hope you're still in and around the football game in Australia. And yeah, great to see you out there. Big week in football, as always. I think some of the biggest news, if you're a fan of the game out in the US, is that their schedule has been announced. And there's been some rah-rah kind of going on, Madge, for Angel City in particular. I don't know if you want to give us a bit of a rundown what's been going on out there. And for our listeners on Joy Radio Station, you may or may not be as up to date as some of the other fans who do nothing but listen and watch football. Angel City is massive in terms of being a new club, but who owns it? All yours, Madge.
Yeah, it's got some pretty amazing A-list owners, which just for women's sport just seems to be setting what you would hope would be a great template going forward for women's sport around the world, regardless of the sport, be it football or other leagues and teams. But yeah, Natalie Portman. Superstar, absolute superstar, movie star, set the ball rolling of working to get investors to put together a women's football team, because it always has been a bit of an anomaly in the NWSL. LA hasn't had a team, so then you've got this Hollywood superstar seeing a bit of a gap, but also just being really inspired from I guess international football, which has been where a lot of the growth and interest in women's football has stemmed from. I think historically is international women's football, being inspired by the US women's national team, and just really, it just seems like she really was passionate about bringing a different model to how we might look at sports ownership and how we run sports teams in the futures. And treating it like a startup, and she's just gotten so many people on board. I think Serena Williams, I think Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union, like a whole just absolute
Abby Wambach at least was in.
Yeah.
At least they were inspired by an Abby Wambach speech at the conference. Yeah.
Naomi Osaka in there or not? I'm just trying to think.
I thought she was Courage.
Courage, isn't she?
Yeah,
she said Courage, really.
Yeah. So
great to see women investing in it as well.
I know it got me thinking about what the Australian sort of women's superstar ownership group might be, and I'm thinking like Ash Barty, Margot Robbie, Kate Blanchett, Kathy Freeman. Let's Lee Lin Chin. Let's just get them all in there.
Oh my god!
But what I think is really great as well is they're really coming from a place of community. So it's not just treating it like a paint by numbers. Here's a men's football club, like football business. They're really coming at it from a great grassroots approach. I think they've already got 5 or 6 supporter groups set up because people are really excited about what they're doing there, and they're coming from a place of building their team where welfare of the players and the community support for the team is at the forefront. There's an article about it in The Guardian, which I'm sure we'll have in the show notes, and I absolutely recommend everyone to go and have a read of it, because it's an approach that I know Australian football and business doesn't necessarily have the same money pulling power, but it's maybe a model that Australian football and especially Australian women's sport should be looking to try and instead of just relying on one big international owner to come and save the day for our clubs, maybe more of a community-minded multi-owner option is the way to go.
I love it. Sounds good. I don't have much money for something like that, but if you do get behind it, there's I don't know whether or not you can set up a new club. It doesn't seem to be the way that we work specifically here, but sensational news there. Hey, just other stuff that's in the news at the moment, and when we talk about the league in the US, it's the NWSL. Traditionally, a couple of years ago or a couple of seasons ago, you would have seen heaps of Aussies playing there. The pendulum swung a little bit such that now we see more Aussies playing in and around the UK and Europe, or the Matildas in particular. But there is one player who, for whatever reason, has decided that that's the best place for her to be. So Emily Van Egmond is playing for San Diego Wave, I think, which is one of the new teams. So it'll be really exciting to see when that season starts. And it doesn't make it as hard as what it has been for me in some seasons with all the Aussies all over the place. At least in this case, I'll be able to say, oh, she's playing there. Cool. Maybe I'll just follow that one. So that's some top news. In other news, the Matildas have a home that's being built at the moment at La Trobe Uni. Now, that doesn't mean it's the Matildas, it means it's Matilda's home at La Trobe Uni. So when they're in and around Victoria, that would be the place that they would be. It'll be a state-of-the-art facility, and great to see that for these. In more Tilly's news, a couple of massive signings that I've actually been waiting since probably through the Olympics, and I'm not sure if other people have as well, but in particular, Kyra Cooney-Cross has signed an international contract, which she's at a level that maybe the dub isn't necessarily going to keep bringing out the best of her, but for her to go off together with Courtney, Nevin, to go off to Hammarby, which is where we've had probably a few Matildas. Anyone with the number? Stefan, do you have the number?
Oh, I don't know the total number, but certainly Elise Kellon-Knight was there most recently. It's a good story. That on the Hammarby website where they announced the signings, they say they've had their eye on Kyra for quite a while. So they were saying persistence has finally paid off with regard to that one. And with Courtney, they're really looking to her attacking game to see how she can contribute to the attack from her defensive wide role. So. But they also talked about her versatility and being able to play in the middle as well. So, yeah.
And one of the key things for the listeners to probably care about, I suppose, is how do they watch the games that are coming from Hammarby, and whether or not it's easier to watch some matches around the world than it is with others. Is Hammarby one of those easy matches, Stefan? Or easy, not matches, but leagues to watch?
Yeah, so that's all covered in the Nordic preview that came out last week. But I think you need to have a Viaplay subscription and a VPN probably to see all the games. I think some games will be broadcast on a TV station there, but not all of them. So, and you probably need a VPN for that as well. So where there's a will, there's a way, as I found that with Norway. But yeah, you have to jump through one or two little hoops, I think.
Super. Thank you for that. And the other massive news around the Matildas this week is that the young Matildas have been confirmed to play in the U20 World Cup in Costa Rica. Fantastic news. And that's happening in August. It's been, I think it was 2006, the last time that the young Matildas were able to play at such a top flight event. And it comes about because North Korea are, let's just say, not fielding a team. And with the young Matildas being the fourth place team, that means that they get an opportunity to step up. Eric, I wonder your thoughts on this, because I know that you've got a passion for, football in general, but let's talk about the young Matildas. Hopefully we'd be seeing quite a few players that you've spent your time watching. Yes,
I would imagine so. And a lot of players that we've spent watching as well, because basically the eligibility is players born 2002 to 2006, which would cover all the players to make their debut in the A-League Women recently. So remember Dale and I were discussing in a group chat who would be eligible, and I have to name the player that I want to see at an under-20 World Cup, and that is Sheridan Gallagher from Western Sydney Wanderers, because that will be the most entertaining thing I can think of for a youth international tournament. But so many others: Aideen Keane from Perth Glory, Hayley Taylor-Young from Canberra, Hannah Lowry, Jessica Nash, Darcy Malone, Sasha Grove, maybe, why not? It's so many names. I don't know. Sarah Hunter, Charlie Rule, Briley Henry. So basically,
did you get to pick any, or was it just Eric?
We just picked the same names though.
We basically picked a whole squad.
Yeah,
like we went through. We were talking about this. I think this was the day that the news dropped, and we basically went through and picked, I think, like 20 players that we could just think of off the top of our heads, and that was just who had been playing either like recently overseas or playing in the dub this season. And yeah, there's some quality players in there like that have really come of age and have got a good amount of game time this season.
Love to see an article on that.
Yeah,
guys, just saying.
There's a few players that are really unlucky to miss out. There are
Maya Markovsky is born in December 2001.
Yeah, there's a few players who would have gone to the last under-20s.
Yes,
if it wasn't cancelled. Players that I can think of, I think Annalie Grove would have gone. Charlie McLean would have gone as well. I'm fairly sure. But yeah, we went through and we compiled a whole list. We might have to write something about that. Yes. But yeah, it's a huge opportunity. And I mean, for it to be coming 10 months before a home World Cup, both for the team, for the setup as well, but also for those players to get like a real experience. The only downside is that it's in Costa Rica, which makes it a really hard time zone for.
Oh yeah, that's the Americas. That's the worst time.
Yeah, that's not good. That's the other reason that Colombia winning the World Cup bid was bad.
Yeah,
that's the other reason they should have pitched. Bad time zone.
Yeah. It's not so bad if you decided to just travel there, and then the time zone is lovely.
This is true. This is a good point.
Okay.
Not suggesting that people should drop all their kit and run over to Costa Rica, but the U20s and underage World Cups in general are absolutely fascinating to watch. So if you're listening and you're like, why are they getting so excited about, a U20 World Cup? It's because you see some of the most amazing players coming through and top skills and just so exciting. It's really interesting to see the swing in, I suppose, not swing, but a difference in the nations that you see dominating in the Open World Cup versus what you see there. And it's maybe some sort of prediction of the future, although Japan was always doing really well. And they won the World Cup in 2011, so that they'd been there, done that, but they didn't necessarily persist that as much as what the underage World Cups would have indicated. But yeah, absolutely a top competition to watch.
I think another point is it's been identified that our junior and younger teams haven't gotten the games that they've needed to really develop into senior footballers that we want and need. So I think just because 2006, I mean, that's a long time since we've been exposed to this sort of competition at that age level. So just more games is always a huge plus. However they go, it will be fantastic to see.
Yeah. And although obviously the long break's bad, but in a way, a nice story, it's gone kind of full circle because the young Matildas coach Leah Blaney was in the squad the last time Australia made an under-20 World Cup. The other thing I was thinking of is with Leah Blaney, obviously based in Sydney, I do wonder how many of Australia's young talent will suddenly end up in Sydney for the upcoming NPL New South Wales campaign, just to be right under Leah Blaney's nose and putting themselves in the best possible light for this tournament. I'd also like to see like a complete Smokey make the squad, like someone without previous dub experience. So maybe someone born 2002 or later who hasn't been in the A-League women yet can impress enough to actually make the tournament, because I think that'd be a great story.
Very nice. All right, let's talk about the dub. So news out of the dub already. So while there was a really big game that came away just yesterday, but in big news, Vicky Linton has already notified Canberra United of her intention to depart the club. I think she had signed a 3-year contract, and has she worked through 2 of those years? Stefan, this is probably in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, has been through 2 years. The Canberra role is a year-round role, so and her family is somewhere in regional New South Wales, as I understand it. So, she's made the call after 2 years to head back to where her family is. The Canberra role also involves taking care of the Canberra United Academy during the NPL season. So you have oversight of both the local scene to an extent, as well as the W League scene. So it would be quite a demanding role. She leaves quite a legacy, though. I think she must be happy about many aspects of her time in Canberra. She's obviously a fine coach, and the players really love playing underneath her, is my understanding. She was the first coach to have an all women's coaching team in the league. That was last season, and she's brought through some fine youngsters from the local area into the competition this year. So, and last year with Emma Ilioski, Chloe Lincoln, Sasha Grove. Yeah, so there's some really good outcomes there for her time at Canberra. Obviously didn't get the results this year that she wanted after reading the landscape so well last year and recruiting from Sydney University with all the players there knowing each other prior to coming into the season and having that high level of cohesion last year. So this year wasn't quite the same, lost half the squad. Probably COVID had a bit to do with that, and we didn't see the cohesion until much later in the season, unfortunately. But some good things out of a time here, and be interesting to see where things go from here. Sarah West, the assistant coach, one of the assistant coaches, taking on the academy in the winter season, we've heard here, as a caretaker, I guess.
Yeah, I'd love to see Sarah West take over Canberra United if that was an option down the track, but we'll wait and see how that goes along. Thanks for the update. Just as we were about to throw to maybe an independent person in the room to talk about the preliminary final between Melbourne City and Melbourne Victory, I note that I can't see Madge anymore. She may just have turned off her video, but so I'll talk about the result and then throw it around the room maybe. I don't know if anyone did predictions, but 2-0 at halftime to Melbourne Victory probably wasn't what I was expecting. And then the final result of 3-1 to Melbourne to Melbourne Victory. And with Tori Trumas being the one person who scored a goal for City, I'm not sure if we can mute Eric just for a moment so everyone else gets a chance to talk about it. But Dale, your overall thoughts about that match in terms of what surprised you, who was the game changer?
I think the biggest surprise for me was just that Victory was so poor in front of goal. They've had a fairly good and fairly consistent run of finishing chances throughout this season. Obviously, there's going to be kind of anomalies every year, but they were so wasteful in the first half. They had that gilt edge opportunity that Melina Ayres had, and I think that was the 4th or 7th minute, really, really early on. And then from there, they just kept spurning chances, either being wastefully offside or being not hitting the final pass. Or Sally James, I thought, had a really, really good first half. I think she had a pretty good game all in all. It probably would have given her best on ground on the losing side. But yeah, I think that was my biggest surprise. But I think once Victory scored, City really didn't know what to do. They had the problem with City this season has been that so much of their attack has been directed through Wilkinson. She scored half their goals this year. When she went away with the Ferns, we obviously saw that there were the same kind of issues that we saw on the weekend in terms of not being able to kind of craft any chances. And it was kind of ironic that, their fullback was the one to score at a set piece. But I think if there was one thing that I would take away from it if I was a City fan or somebody on the City staff, would be that they had to find another way to score. And they wasted so many chances and then picked one up right at the end. But yeah, I think Victory, fairly deserving grand finalists, in all honesty. They played City to perfection.
Madge, your thoughts on the whole game, I suppose, but also in addition to which, how do you think that they would match up? Victory would match up against Sydney next week or this week, Sunday?
Yeah, I think the stats are sort of relatively even when you look at the game. But when you were watching it, it looked like City really had not much going on, and it was really it was a game of huge missed chances as well from both sides. Some absolute clangers that really should have been put away on another day. But Victory, and I dropped out for a bit, so I'm sure we've already sung Alex Chidiak's praises.
We have not. Go ahead.
Oh, well, there we go. Just an absolute workhorse. She was absolutely everywhere. But yeah, for City, I think it just shows how much they've also missed McNamara. So to Dale's point, with everything sort of relying on Wilkinson, but then when you don't have like that other outlet, I think Rebekah Stott's done a really good job of trying to provide some more of that creativity and even Policina, but they just haven't been able to find that other option to get the goals on the board that they maybe had a bit more potency earlier in the season when they still had Holly in the team. But yeah, looking to next week, it's interesting because I think I still think Victories have had some holes here and there that whereas when you look at a Sydney team, they're pretty strong across the park. You don't really see too many chinks in the armor of Sydney, and it's may well be a matter of whether or not Victory can get on top of them early with a dash of brilliance, a great pass, and then put Sydney on the back foot. You'd think that Sydney would have to be strong favourites going in. I can't see Victory doing it, to be honest, but I'd love to be surprised because that's always a good bit of fun. But I think Sydney should have this one.
Stefan, Dale and Madge and George as well have both highlighted the chances that Victory had and maybe their inability to put them away. But the creation of the chances is an excellent point. And if they can put them away, does that mean that maybe against Sydney that they are a chance?
Who's going first with this one?
Oh, I'll go. Yep. I think you're right. That's a good point. I think that Victory are blessed in terms of the fact that they have kind of a truly three-pronged attack. Catherine Zimmerman will never want to be inside the 6-yard box again after missing that chance on the weekend. That was close to the miss of the season. Unbelievable. But as you say, the ball's got to get there in the first place. So if Victory can kind of repeat that dosage, and kind of further to that point, the two first goals that Victory scored were really kind of, they weren't gifts, but they relied on a momentary lapse of concentration from a defender. So obviously Ayres stole the ball or had the ball passed into her and blocked the pass, and then went through to score off Checker pass for the first goal. And then Checker got caught in no man's land, really, meant to be defending the far post at a corner, got stuck. Torpy didn't really realise that the attacker was coming through, and they scored the second goal.
Are you pinning that one on Checker?
No. I'm
interested.
No, not on the second one. The second one with Checker was just she got kind of caught in two minds in terms of being told to defend on the post and having to defend the space between the two attackers.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is her fault. It's just that like human nature kicks in and you feel like you've got to kind of go to the ball to defend. It was more on Torpy was completely blindsided by the attacker coming from the back post. Which happens, but it showed to me that they took those opportunities. So if you combine that kind of like taking of those momentary opportunities with further creation of opportunities when you do have the ball, I mean that's something that Sydney will really want to work on this week, is being able to shut the movement between the lines down. Excuse me, for victory, because I think that's where they're really, really dangerous is that movement back to front. They tend to move really, really well and really quickly between the lines. And also now that they've got Ayres back and looks to be fully fit, they're not going to be able to play a high line like they have at some parts of this season, because she'll be in behind and then they'll be in trouble.
Yeah, and just to add to that, how well has Jeff Hopkins done to fine-tune his team for the run home for the final? 3 games ago, even they weren't looking like they were going to get anywhere near this. So congratulations to Jeff and the whole team, but they've certainly got some momentum with them. So if they can bring that same sort of energy that Alex Chidiac brought to the game, the whole game pretty much, we saw her do it when they were 2-0 down against Canberra a couple of weeks ago, and she just brought that energy the whole game, and it just lifts the whole side. So they certainly have that game for them. But yeah, Sydney are perhaps a different proposition.
I was disappointed. One thing I was disappointed by was no run for Mel Maisels at 3-0. Would definitely have had a keeper substitution if I was Jeff Hopkins, because there is nothing more hilarious than swapping your keeper for no apparent reason, 3-0 up in a derby. Just salt into the wounds, and that's what we really want to see.
Yeah.
All right, Eric. Give us your rundown of the game and talk about next week as well, or this week, Sunday.
So, hasn't Melina Ayres come back just in time? It's like that saying, centre forwards win games. She's obviously not 100% because she can't be. She's just come back. But having someone that has been alluded to earlier takes the load off players like Catherine Zimmerman, and also gives Alex Chidiac a target for like through balls, which Alex Chidiac always seems to play a few killer passes in every game. It's really given Victory what they need. And also it can't be stressed enough. Victory played half a season in 23 days. So look what they can do with a decent weeks of rest and then something other than recovery sessions. So amazing. It's like, it's almost like rest helps them play better or something.
So Sydney have too much rest then? The introduction of the effective automatic qualification.
Yes. Well, so I went to the post-match presser after Sydney beat Melbourne City in the major semi-final, or whatever the official name actually is. And I feel like emotionally they're going to need these 2 weeks to get over it, because to get back to proper concentration. Ante Juric and Courtney Vine came in and they were like giddy with excitement from what had just happened. Like Ante Juric is pretty level-headed, but he was like, even he had kind of had trouble concentrating. There was a bit of giggling. So really they just, I think the long break, it's going to give, and Ante Juric is a good coach, of course, enough time for them to rest and refocus. Everyone will have niggles by this stage of the season. So I don't think the longer break is a problem for Sydney.
I'm looking forward to whoever Polly Doran gets into it with. She's
fun to watch
as well. I assume Princess Abini.
It's Princess Abini, and there was some.
That'll be fun. That'll be a fun matchup.
There were some interesting photos from last year's grand final, and Princess Abini was getting the full Polly Doran experience. So yeah, I do expect that to happen again.
I did enjoy the square up. It was nice to see that that there was a bit of. Obviously the game means something, but it's so rare to see, footballers go toe to toe like that.
Yeah.
It was really good to just see the kind of like a little bit of a bit more emotion, just to show that that these two teams really don't like each other, and that's good. So good in football.
Yes. So my memory's gone. Which players was it again, Dale?
Oh, I can't remember these things.
Okay, it's a square up. Okay. I mean, I'm just going. Well, then it's a square. I'm just going to assume Tori Toomuth and Rihanna
Pollicina.
Yeah, Pollicina is great for a square up.
Yeah.
All right. And we haven't heard anything from Eric yet about Tori. I would certainly say that we saw some emotion from her when she scored that goal, and she was straight back into it.
Because she scores once every 2 years. Like, of course she's going to show emotion. Also,
but her emotion was more specifically, come on, team, we're still a chance with this. I think it was the 80th minute or something or other. We saw the turnaround the previous week with Melbourne City against Sydney, and maybe she just thought it was possible. So keep getting in there.
I think it was possible. If Hannah Wilkinson had put that header away,
that would have been,
it would have gotten spicy.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. It would have been on for young and old at that point.
Yes, a very good get the ball quickly celebration from Tori, and good to know that the number of goals she scored yesterday is greater than the distance of the goal measured in yards. Because, I mean, the chance that you literally couldn't miss, I suppose. So she just let it hit her and it went in. But yes.
Sounds like a perfect strategy. All right. Next week, I've written it down as next week, but it literally is this Sunday at 4 p.m. or 4:05 p.m. You can watch it on Paramount or 10 Bold. 10 Bold quality doesn't seem that great to me, so maybe you want to do your Paramount. I'm not sure. Will be the grand final, the big dance that people call it. It's Sydney FC versus Melbourne Victory for the chance to hold the trophy and see who can get through. It's probably an opportune moment to ask people what they think will happen and maybe what the score will be. Stefan, do you want to go first and then throw to your favourite friend on the pod and ask them what they think?
Oh, look, I'd love to see Victory get up and continue that momentum home. So I'm not sure it'll happen, but I'm going to let's go for a 3-2 to Victory.
Stefan wants work for whoever's live tweeting it, I see. So.
I think Sydney will get it done, but I think this is going to be a real game. Like these two teams, there's history now after last year. Obviously, Sydney aren't going to want to give this up like they did at home last time. I get the feeling there's going to be a pretty good crowd for this one as well. So there'll be a lot of home support, which is always good. Weather's looking good, so the pitch should be in really good condition. I don't think there's a game at Cogra this weekend, so that's further to the point. So it's really, it's hyped up for a perfect crescendo to the season. I think Sydney will get it done, but I think it'll be maybe 2-1. I think Vine will score and potentially get into the crowd. But yeah, I think this is going to be a really. I think it'll be like last week that the Melbourne Derby last week, that there was a real feeling that nobody wanted to make the first mistake, and obviously Ayres having that first miss was not huge, but like the defenders are going to be on tenterhooks for this one, and I think we will be as well. I think 2-1 to Sydney, but I don't think it'll be easy.
I'm just going to say
your thoughts.
I think I'm just absolutely everything that Dale said. I agree with. I think close 2-1 to Sydney. On the crowd though, I really hope there is a great crowd, because that's one thing I was disappointed by the Melbourne game. Not a great crowd, only 1,300 if the official attendance is to be believed, which is disappointing for a Derby prelim. So let's hope Sydney gets out.
Sporting capital of the world and all that.
Yeah, so. And there was a men's derby on the night before. Like there was a perfect opportunity to have, you get in for free with your ticket from last night or something like that.
No, I still want standalone. It should have been standalone, but please, you're a football fan. You make
hugely disappointing. I completely agree. There is, from what I've seen at least, junior tickets are like $15, but I think you get 4 kids in with every adult. So. The ticketing options for this week and there's a hill, so you can bring a picnic.
I know that there has been some criticism that the tickets and access to the tickets haven't actually been publicised particularly well. So let's hope
were they advertising it? Hang on a minute. Yeah, oops, sorry, just whacked my mic. Sorry, and just before Eric jumps in as well, in support of all my fellow Victorians, I would say that we've copped a massive hit from COVID across the last couple of years, and I think there is still a sentiment of some fear and some anxiety around some of these big events. So I don't think it's football, and I don't think it's this game. I think it's kind of getting back into life a little bit. And I don't know that other people I know that Sydney was in lockdown for a truckload of time as well. But yeah, just speaking from my personal experience, it was really pretty tough, and it might take a little while to get back into it. So yeah, it's a bit tricky. Sorry, Eric, your turn.
Speaking of Melburnians, if you are traveling up to the game, hit up Victory Vikings on Twitter or Instagram, because I know they're planning something big. So that, and of course, there's going to be a good home crowd. We want to see a good away support as well.
Yeah.
So because that'll just make it even better. I hope the Sydney getting to the grand final first means the people of Sydney have more time to plan, and therefore that helps the crowds. So my prediction, I think it's going to be a proper slugfest. I reckon 1-0 to Sydney with a goal from Nat Tobin, and a Victory player will get booked for fouling Courtney Vine.
Yes, good. Yeah, I think that's a given.
The most important thing for this weekend is that we have to get in contact with the pub at Cogra.
Yes.
Make sure that the bistro is open.
Oh, yeah. There was a debacle
last season. Yes, the bistro wasn't open at the pub, and there was, calamitous. There was no food. We had to eat pies at the ground.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds terrible. All right. So I wouldn't be a true Victorian if I didn't say that Melbourne Victory were going to win the match. I think Jeff Hopkins is not that Ante's not a clever man, but I think Jeff will come up with a way that would put Victory on top. And I think it will be 2-1, which is a reversal of what some of you have said. And I have my fingers crossed for that. I 50% believe myself. So the other 50%, we'll see how we go. All right, on to news from around the world. I think Dale's going to whip us through the matches across the UK.
Not a problem. I've got those in front of me. All good. Alrighty. So there was a midweek set of fixtures this week in the FA Women's Super League. We did see there's been a cup round over the weekend as well. So we had Everton 0, Chelsea 3. Chelsea getting the chocolates before halftime in that one. Sam Kerr with a 7th minute goal, and then 2 others for goal each for Guro Wrighton and Erin Cuthbert. Got the points for Chelsea there. Manchester City 2, Reading 0. Goals for Denise Stokes and Lauren Hemp there. And we also had a last-minute home draw for West Ham United against Manchester United. 54th minute goal for Ella Toone, and then a late equaliser for Grace Fisk, rather. And that was the games that were played through the week. Table hasn't changed that much in the Super League. We're still seeing Leicester and Birmingham and Everton down the bottom of the table, and the kind of big 5 at the top. Aston Villa down there as well. You've got Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United in that order. Basically looks like a 2-way battle for the title at this stage between Arsenal and Chelsea, which is good for us, because that means that at least some Australians are going to pick up some silverware in the league. As I said, we also did have that FA Cup, Women's FA Cup quarter-final round on the weekend. Friday night's game was Arsenal versus Coventry United. Arsenal 4-0 winners there. Goals to Blackstenius, Mead, Paris, and Miedemar. That was at Boreham Wood's home ground, which name escapes me. Then Everton, not content with getting pantsed 3-0 at home, went and got beaten 4-0 away by Manchester City on the Sunday afternoon. 2 goals to Hemp, 1 to Caroline Weir, which was supposedly a banger. I haven't actually seen that goal, but a little birdie tells me that it was a good one. And Ellen White. Ellen White has been in the FAWSL so much longer than I realised, and I am now realising that I too have been around for a lot longer than I had realised.
Yes.
Ipswich Town 0, West Ham 1, a goal for Lisa Evans in that one, and then Chelsea with the hand 5-0 over Birmingham City. Ericsson, Spence, England, and Neve Charles with the goals in that one. So that I'm not sure if the draw's been done for that one, but the semi-finals, from memory, the semi-finals with the Women's Cup at neutral venues, and then they go to Wembley for the final. So look out for that draw coming up. That should be good fun. And I think the final is the first weekend of May, but I could be wrong. We did have some games, as we mentioned. We do have to cover the Scottish Women's Premier League. We had Jacinta Galabata-Archie 6-1, her Celtic team 6-1 over Motherwell, and former Australian Aoife Colville 2-0 with her Glasgow City over Partick Thistle. Partick Thistle, home of the most terrifying mascot you will ever see. I'm not going to show you. Go and look it up. It's terrifying.
So there's a content warning?
There is a content warning, not for children.
Okay, we'll try and find a link to the show notes.
It's like a sunflower was drawn by a 3-year-old.
It's like a sunflower was drawn by Damien from The Omen. It's a terrifying experience, and I don't recommend it. Anyway, so that's the British leagues this week.
Thank you very much, Eric. We dobbed you in for going through the results from Europe, if that's okay.
Might as well. That's appropriate because that's why I was late, making sure I knew what I was talking about. So in France, LA Carpenters, Lyon won 3-0 away over Dijon. LA Carpenter played the full game. So I've just realized I should have written these players' full names down. So got double for Katarina Macario and a goal for Melvin Millard. Then Mary Fowler's Montpellier won 6-0 over Guingamp at home. Mary Fowler was subbed on in the 66th minute there. I'm not going to bother going through all the goal scorers. Unfortunately, then if we move over to Italy, unfortunately, Pomigliano's game against Lazio was postponed. So that's Pomigliano featuring Ivy Luik and Ella Mastrantonio. And then big news for our Aussie in the Netherlands, because Amy Harrison's PSV are through to the Dutch Cup final after defeating ADO Den Haag 2-1 after extra time. So getting revenge after losing to them in the league a couple of weeks ago. And then Amy once again doing Australia proud by coming on with about 20 minutes to go in normal time, getting booked after PSV took the lead, which is, what we want to see. And also shout out to PSV's Nadia Colin for getting booked in the 122nd minute. I really hope that was either blatant time wasting or a really cynical tackle. And now I do believe that it's time for Stefan to show his skills as our Nordic specialist, because the Nordic leagues are back underway.
They are indeed. Thanks, Eric. Yes. So the current 7-day period that we're in sees the commencement of the 3 leagues that we have Aussies in this year. So firstly, on the weekend, we saw the round 1 of the top Serien in Norway being played, and Carly Rosbacken's LSK Kavina came away with a home 3-2 win against Kolbotn. Carly didn't actually play that game. She was on the bench, wasn't used. She came off half-time in their last trial game, practice game prior to this game, with a bit of a sore foot. But my understanding is that it's nothing major, and her absence was just precautionary. So we should see her real soon, I think. Over in Sweden, we have 3 teams with Aussies involved. All of them have a pair of Aussies. So the league starts on the 27th, which is this coming Sunday, I think, this coming weekend. But in the meantime, we've been seeing games occur in the Svenska Cup. And on the weekend, Tegan Micah and Charlie Grant's FC Rosengard had a 1-0 win over Eskilstuna United, putting them into the final. And the final is against BK Häcken on in late May, as I understand it.
That's a big gap between.
It is, yes, yeah. And Denmark have got the same. Denmark's semi-finals were also on the weekend, and they're over 2 legs, whereas the Sweden semi-final was just a single leg. And in the second leg, all the Aussies in Denmark were all playing each other, which is awesome. So Jenna McCormick's AGF played against Fortuna Hearing, which of course have Angie Beard and Claire Wheeler and Indy Riley. Angie and Claire had a start and finished out the game, and Indy came on at the 77th minute and received a yellow card, but they still came away with the chocolates. So we're in the final mid-May, I believe, against Thai, THY, Thai Fisted, I think it's sometimes called, and they've come away with a 3-2 win on aggregate. So this Friday, the Danish leagues kick off. It's not really the league; it's the interesting arrangement they have there, whereby they sort of finish off last season with a 10-game round robin series for the top 6 to determine Champions League positions and champions, and the bottom 2 from the league from last season, from 2021, play with 6 other teams, I think, from the tier below, and the top 2 who finish out that round robin series play in the top league. So that means their season won't be starting for a few weeks yet. But it's an exciting week if you're following Nordic football. So I'm looking forward to bringing it to everyone through the wraps and through the occasional tweet.
Thank you very much, Stefan. You'll be a busy guy with all of that coming back on your plate. With Canberra United out of the dub, at least you'll have a little bit of extra time. You won't be doing both bits and pieces. I think we are intending to do some season wraps or team wraps from the dub to see how things went, but we'll see how we go with that. Queens of the Week, it looks like my name is first, so I'll take a stab at it. Even though I haven't done my homework, I'm going to steal from Madge, and I'm going to say Natalie Portman and Alex Chidiac. I'm going to say the both of them. Sorry, Madge, I wasn't stealing anyone beyond that.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Feels like you've stolen twice there.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, were they both yours? Oh, I was stealing from what you were saying before, but it just
Glory Hunt's coming back to the
twice
grand final. Glory Hunt's and stealing Queens of the Week off other people. Unbelievable.
I'm very sorry, Madge. You can steal from me.
No, you've stolen from Stefan now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Stefan had named Alex Chidiac.
Let me scroll.
I reckon Stefan should just roll in and just wax lyrical about it.
It's not a bad thing for 2 people to call out the same person, particularly when it's Chids, who played a terrific game, don't you think, Stefan?
I do, and also have a backup option as well. I was going to call out Chids for Energizer Bunny efforts in the semi, but also to all the 11 Aussies who are kicking off in the Nordic leagues this week. So shout out to all them.
And I'm going to jump in before mine is actually stolen. Everyone's favourite lost Aussie, Rebekah Stott picked up her, played in the 100th game, not this dub game, in the prelim. Unfortunately, not the result she would have wanted, but also City's all-time highest game player as well. So well done.
Okay, so to confirm what Dale said earlier, my Queen of the Week is Manchester City superstar Caroline Weir, who scored another worldie to add to her ever-growing catalogue of worldies in their 4-0 FA Cup quarterfinal win over Everton.
Thanks, Caroline.
Yes, thanks. So basically, she got to about 25 yards out, had the decision, do I want power or placement? And then she remembered, hey, I'm Caroline Weir, and picked both of them. So just absolutely leathered it into the top corner, and the keeper was as helpless as if she'd been shooting from 6 yards out. What an incredible goal. So I do have some, kind of secondary queens going to the second tier of New South Wales women's football New South Wales League One. Shout out to Tamira Souza from Northbridge and Marcela Santos from University of New South Wales. They both scored 4 goals in a game yesterday, and they're also, oddly enough, both Brazilian imports with a futsal background. But there was a third player who scored 4 goals, but she did it against Blacktown City, and that is not the way to get your name mentioned on this pod. So we'll just leave it at that.
And does that leave us with you, Dale? Have you got a ripper of a Queen King or non-binary?
Wouldn't go to say I have a ripper, but really, really super impressed with both goalkeepers this weekend in the W League. I thought both Dumont and Sally James, Casey Dumont and Sally James, were fantastic, and really, really showing what what they can do. And it was really, really impressive goalkeeping performance from both of them, in all honesty. And my other queens, generic legends of the week. Just obviously that information around the Female Riders Football Fest with women on side. Really looking forward to that. I won't be able to make it, unfortunately, as it's also the day after I start a new job.
Oof.
But all of those people who do go, I'm super, super jealous. And, it'll be a good experience. You get to experience God's country.
Yes.
Good shout out. For those aware, I think it was just announced today that Women on Side, together with Visit Canberra or some such thing, are putting together a women's
visit Canberra.
Please. They're very, very kind, very polite. Women's Football Writers Festival in Canberra on the day of the Matildas match, which is April 12th. So that's a Tuesday. You can get your tickets pretty easily and go off and listen to some great content there. I think there's a stream that's going to talk about media. There's a stream that's going to talk about books, and there's a stream that's going to talk about podcasts. So that'll be superb to listen to. Great to have you all on the show. Great for me personally to be back on the show. Pretty happy about that. One thing which we didn't talk about, and just for a quick mention, with Melbourne City, you talked about the greatness of the keepers that we had in the game, but we missed Bubs from that match. She's had a pretty great season, I would say, and everyone talks about the longevity of Bubs, but she missed the game due to a red card, as well as Tyler J. Vlanich, who also missed the game with a red card and an ankle injury. So, I don't know if that would have materially changed the result in the game. It could have had an impact. They're both big players, but any final thoughts on that before we wrap up?
I think with Bubs, I think the biggest thing that they missed was not necessarily just her keeping, but her character. James was, as I said, she was fantastic, but I don't think that, as Bubs has been around since, Adam was a boy. And that kind of experience lends you kind of a calming manner in those instances. I don't think that it would have necessarily changed the result, but I think that it could have changed the way that it happened. But as I said, she was a huge out. She's effectively two lines of defense. So.
Yes, and
I think Vlanich probably would have cost them. Like, we've seen her put in some wonderful passes this season, so I think that was a big loss for them, just to losing a player that can actually pull something really creative out and have that experience as well. But not sure if it would have changed the result, but two big outs.
Very good. All right. Well, on behalf of myself and the entire Beyond 90 team, thank you for staying with us through episode 88. I hope you've listened to all the other ones, and we'll keep bringing you some more great ones. We'll try and get some more guests for the future to talk about the football with the W League or with the Dub finishing up at the end of this week. It'll be interesting to see the Matildas coming forward in a couple of weeks' time. And then there's plenty of world football, which we will continue to cover. So once again, thank you, and we'll talk to you all again soon.